Hello, friends. This is Spot of Nerd, and got a few things I want to kind of talk about in this episode. Some politics, as well as some reviewing. I actually will just start it off. I was very, very surprised to learn, at least from what I can tell, that Ted Lasso is done. Uh, And I'm not gonna lie, I have to tell you the truth. So I just finished it. I just finished the season 3, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought it was pretty good. Now, of course, this show went down the toilet from the second season. I've said this many times before. If you want to watch this show, I highly recommend you simply watch the first season and the first season only. After that, just stop watching it because it is woke, political, narrative, agendas, so on and so forth. It's absolute crap. In the beginning of season 3, this supposed last season, things were even a bit kind of like, okay, here we go. We're focusing everything away from what should be a really great story about an American coaching an English football team to let's discuss the horribleness of the world. And, obviously everybody can take it through his or her own opinions, blah blah blah. But the bottom line is one thing this show was very good at, and I'm saying this in a realistic, sarcastic sense, they don't hide the fact that they despise anything related to conservative beliefs or values, etc., so on and so forth. So whenever something came about, let's just say they weren't shying away from it, which again is kind of what I believe killed this show, metaphorically speaking, of course. But halfway through season 3, surprisingly enough, it actually did get better. And what I mean by that is because it went back to the story. It went back to the story of getting to know these characters, who they were, in relation to AFC Richmond, of course, Ted Lasso becoming a stronger coach, thus rekindling his almost borderline relationship with his wife to get back to his kid. Obviously, the Rebecca gal who owns Richmond, she's been changed due to the positivity surrounding her and the friends and the family and the support. God forbid you have positivity and support around you to end up with basically a happy ending. And that's what it was. The season or supposedly series finale, I thought was very well done. They wrapped up everybody's story quite nicely, and I I mean, sure, could I see a few things change here and there in terms of like, how they ended certain people's story? But I guess for example, I'll give you the coach. So you had Ted Lasso and you had his best friend coach. At the end, you see him getting married to his love that he met in England, and Ted wasn't there at the wedding. So I mean, it's little things like that where I'm like, I'm pretty sure if he was getting married, Ted would fly over to attend the wedding. Little things like that. Same thing with, I guess, even with Ted and his ex-wife. His ex-wife, you could tell, was getting, didn't want to really, um, wasn't really interested in her quote unquote new boyfriend, and was almost rekindling the relationship with Ted. So it was one of those, maybe it would have been nice to see them kind of back together. Nothing that's going to be, I would say, like over the top, but it would just been nice to kind of finish up those little minor details. But yeah, I mean, I would say grit your teeth, get through season 2, get through the first half of season 3, and I'd be curious to know what you think. Let me know if you're caught up, or if you're even bothering, or if you've obviously watched the entire series. I genuinely thought from articles way back when the series first started that the directors and the writers, they had 4 seasons in mind. My assumption is with the writer's strike, with budget cuts, etc., so on and so forth, they probably just wanted to wrap this up and move on without any fear of, I guess, destroying whatever legacy this show may have for the fans that are out there. So, credit where it's due. You ended it. If this is the end, you ended it the way I feel it should have been ended. Of course, again, I would definitely tell you this is a god awful show, minus the first season. And hey, maybe there's a spinoff. Who knows? We'll see what happens, of course, because you've got what's his face? Oh my God, the grumpy dude. I am spacing. You've got Jamie Tart. You've got. Give me a minute. I'm gonna have to be. I gotta, because it's gonna bug me. Um. I hope you like music in the back. Okay, seriously, I'm having the biggest brain fart. But the guy that's always pissed off basically becomes the manager of, not the manager, but the coach of AFC Richmond. I guess you could kind of do a spin-off with him. It might be interesting. And then, of course, with Nate as a side coach to take over, things like that. So who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see what Apple TV does in the future. So moving along, I wanted to touch a little bit on a couple things in the world, and where we're going to go in that regards, to the politics, to everything in between. It was officially, I guess, announced, the news today, and you can look this information up. It is now public record. Your so-called president of the United States, when he was the vice president, there is now official proof of basically criminal activity during his time as VP. Now, isn't it interesting to hear news like that when, I mean, obviously, if you want to just get down to the nitty-gritty of it, nothing is going to happen. Let's be real. Nothing. You can't touch these people. They can get away with murder, literal murder, and nothing's going to happen. But I just want to make sure that it is, even though I am just one person, you thought Trump was the bad guy, was the criminal, was this, was that, blah-de-blue-blue. But there's nothing official with Trump in regards to criminal activity. You tried to impeach him twice. Both times were bogus. You tried to do this, you tried to do that. Each time came out to be fake, false. And even as I mentioned in a previous episode just recently, the Durham report basically, it basically gives Trump freedom, fair game to anything you've ever said in the past, to basically prove that everything the news has told you has been fake. The narratives to divide people, the narratives to get you to hate, Orange Man bad, Twitter's bad, yada, yada, yada. It's all been designed. It's all by design. And this is just further proof of it. So it will be interesting, shall we say, to see what the future holds for the current president, because, I mean, we can only hope that maybe the rule of law will be upheld, but again, I'm very, very doubtful that it will. It's just, I need to make sure it gets known, because, again, there might be only a few of you that listen to this or watch these videos, and I think you should know if you're not aware. So go look into it. You might be quite interested to hear some of this news. And, it kind of leads us down to, you look at the Target situation. You look at the now Kohl's situation. You look at the PetSmart situation. And you look at the North Face situation. All on top of the Bud Light situation. Now, June is Pride Month. And I have no issue about folks that want to celebrate. I am definitely one of those individuals who believes, I think, you look at the veterans. I do not, to this day, and I'm saying this sincerely from the bottom of my heart, from a place of genuine empathy, I do not understand why they get only one day. Where I don't understand that these men and women who have sacrificed, whether in the past or in the present, They have sacrificed their very lives to make sure that you can celebrate Pride Month. They only get a day. One single 24-hour day. It is disgusting. It's horrible. It's disrespectful. It's disgraceful. And I genuinely do pray that one day it will change. I doubt, like I say, not to be negative, I'm just being real. I doubt it will ever change, but maybe one day we can hope because, you know, with the situations going on with these companies mentioned and everything in between, I will neither vouch or disvouch, I guess, I don't even know if that's a word, the current situations revolving around those companies. But one thing I will always say, and I've always said this, and I will never ever be afraid to speak about, leave the children out of it. Let me just say it one more time. We have, and I'm speaking on behalf, I know I am speaking on behalf of millions of people everywhere. We don't have a problem of who you are, what you are, left, right, up, down, middle, sideways, beliefs this, beliefs that, opinions, so on and so forth. We do not care. But when you start to involve children, that is when we have a problem. That is when we have an issue. I will always, I mean, again, it's that cliche metaphor. If you talk sexuality in the workplace, you will be fired or at the very least brought to human resources for sexual harassment. And yet you want to make it normal to talk about sex with children. That will never be okay. And I will always hold to that. Never ever will I shy away from the fact that if you want to normalize talking sex to children, you belong in jail. Because that is pedophilia. And that is wrong. Just that is my 2 cents. I will shut up because clearly you know we could go down that path. But I will just stick with that. And I hope there's people out there that feel the same. And, you know, that's where I won't necessarily say that what is currently happening with these businesses is good. I won't say it is bad. I will simply say, maybe if you didn't hint towards the children aspect, maybe things wouldn't be so bad in the financial sense. Because I think what the hardest thing about these situations, and again, you know, you see these people that are celebrating the fact that like Bud Light has lost $26 billion. But what you don't think about is the families that are employed by them that are now potentially going to lose their jobs, potentially going to lose their businesses because their product isn't being sold. That's economics 101. You need to sell a product to make money, to make profit. But if you don't make profit, you go out of business. Thus, you don't get a paycheck. So that's where I am in the middle because, again, stay away from the children, but at the same time, people need to live. They need to survive. So it's just something to think about. I mean, again, I won't go down that path. You know I could go down that path. We've been down it many, many times. I will save you that for this episode. But of course, you know we are going to touch it very much hell of a lot more well into the future. So stay tuned for that. But I wanted to kind of wrap up this episode with just some current situations in life, and I'm not going to go into too much detail in regards to who, what, when, or where, but I think you'll catch on when I kind of give you a little bit of a basis behind it. I've just experienced recently in the past few weeks, you know, there's a lot of discussion, whether it be online, whether it be out in the world, revolving around respect. And, you know, it's one of those things where we used to kind of have a civilization, a society where even if you had a differing viewpoint, we could still talk about it. We could still be friends. We could still debate. We could still have a conversation. We could still joke and have fun and everything in between, even though you had a completely opposite viewpoint or opinion than I did. And it's interesting because we'll just say there's been some examples of, I don't know, we'll just say some companies that they're trying to implement this whole, I guess they want to talk about it more about how, if you are working with a group of people and those group of people, they may have some differing viewpoints. You got to work together as a team, especially if you are in a business, and I think if you're getting what I'm getting at is if you have a company, you have a team, that team is going to be a mix of everybody, personality, um, likes and dislikes, opinions this, opinions, differences that, similar interests this, similar interests that. And through this channel, I'm kind of hesitating for the obvious that, I've just got to be careful for what I say, just to, the saddest truth of all, I've got to protect that paycheck. But, what my main point in all of this is, what I'm trying to get at is, it's interesting that when I hear the discussions, when these topics come up, when you hear people literally say, yeah, if person A believes this, then I cannot. I will avoid them. I won't talk to them. I won't do anything. But yet, now try to imagine that person A is on your same team in terms of your company. Well, then what? You got to work with this person. So what do you do? And it's been a topic that I've discovered. We'll just say allegedly discovered recently, and it's I always kind of just sit there sometimes when I hear this stuff, and I'm not surprised whatsoever. It's actually quite nice, and I say this in a way of validation, I guess is a good word for it, because obviously we've all known now I am very open to discussing the realities of the disrespect, discrimination, hatred towards people like myself, just because of a viewpoint, because I might state that I'm conservative, etc., so on and so forth. To the point where I'm now just going to be telling you flat out, like, this is who I am, this is what I believe, you either take it or leave it. But what I'm getting at is that does mean I have to come across people with differing viewpoints that might genuinely, if they knew XYZ about me, they might have that viewpoint of, I don't want to be around this person. Now, for me, I've always said, if you have a different viewpoint, a different opinion, I could give two craps as long as you respect me. That is literally at the very bottom of it. If you respect me, I don't give a crap what you believe or who you are, just as long as you respect me. But it seems like the majority of these other folks, they don't. And it's very, very abundantly clear they don't, because they just flat out tell you. So what do you do? And I'm not saying, I'm genuinely not providing an answer, because I don't know what that answer is. What do you do? If you're a company, if you're a leader, if you're a manager, if you're running your own business and you have people that cannot work with others because of a viewpoint, because of an opinion, what do you do? Question mark. Because the reality is, there are many people out there, and yes, I will speak for myself on this. We are quiet. We will keep our head down and do our job to the best of our ability. And we will not speak out because we know that we will be blacklisted or black sheeped or whatever that word is, to where, I don't know, again, I don't know the right words are, but the bottom line is we keep to ourselves because the fear of retribution, not retribution, that's not the word. Fear of, I guess, like retaliation or something. There's words for it. Basically, it's the fear, and that's the saddest. I've always said the saddest part about it is because you don't get to know us, and that's the heart of it. You never get to know us, the real people, the real individual. Now, yes, I know this can go down many paths, many directions of, well, obviously, if there's hatred involved, disrespect, yada, yada, yada. But I'm just simply talking about, what if this is a good person that simply has a different viewpoint? Example, you could even just, if you, the religion aspect. There's many religions in the world. Just because, for example, if I say I'm a Christian, now, doesn't mean, according to their beliefs, and at least from my understanding, is, they look down on like homosexuality, things like that. I don't give two shits if you're gay or any part of like the LGBT community. I've Some of my best friends are gay. Literally, I've said in this channel, one of the best things I've become very great friends with, a trans individual. So it's just very disheartening because, again, I would be very cautious to tell certain groups of people that I interact with daily that I am of Christian belief. Because, again, I fear that will harm the environment potentially, whether it with your friends, family, or even work. So I say it to kind of get you to think about it. I get it to make you think, what are you going to do when somebody else has a different opinion? You going to just stop talking to them? You're going to stop working with them? Or are you going to, as I would in my generation, are you going to man up, accept what the world is, respect that other individual, regardless of who they are and what they believe? Maybe try to learn something from them. Maybe try to learn more about them. And I guarantee you, optimistically, you might actually find something in common and become the bestest of friends. It used to happen, and I'm still of that. I mean, I'm nearly 40 years old. I actually have been around when it did happen. It was called the 90s. It was a great fucking time. You could have very different viewpoints, religious, ideologies, political, yada, yada, yada. And you could still come together as one and just be awesome people together. But it's interesting that the majority can't do that now. And I think you know what I'm talking about. But we will continue this talk much, much more well into the future because, again, I think you can get where I'm going at, but I want to expand a bit more as we go down this road. So I hope you've enjoyed listening. It's a bit longer, but I figured there's some good stuff we need to talk about. And if you would all be ever so kind, I would love it. Subscribe and follow wherever you can. Spot of Nerd. Rumble specifically, I would super duper appreciate it. We are, of course, on YouTube. The podcasts, you can hear it on Spotify, all the episodes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much wherever podcasts are. Obviously, the likes, the comments, the follows, all that is super appreciated as well. Share it out with your family. And again, I really sincerely appreciate everybody for listening. Even you haters, because I know you're out there. You message me every day. It's beautiful, beautiful thing. Because again, it just means I'm living rent free in your brain. It's always a good thing. So, with all that said, we will see you guys next time. Later, y'all.